And we are live. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Comics and Variety, Indy Comics stream number 18. I am your host, Doc Hogg, and with me today is our boy, Great Lott, who is, for some reason, in the dark. Oh, yeah. Well, almost there. We still need a little light there.
How about now?
There you go. What is this? Is this protection from the Doc Hogg logic virus, which you are about to be exposed to in our debate over drama?
It's the Doc Hogg illogic virus. Thank you.
No. Alrighty, a couple of administrative details before we get to the fun. Alrighty, we will have Mike Barron on around 9:30. He is now promoting the graphic novel version of Florida Man. We will, before he gets there, we will be reviewing Rockabilly Roadtrip by Preston Asevedo. And we will also be reviewing Slug Buggers. Oh, wait, no, that's not right. That's not right. Not Slug Buggers. I'm sorry. It is Bug Slugger. My bad. By Ness and Locher. And also, just to let you know, my comic book tilt is still in demand. We have met the stretch goal. And this here is a picture of a whole bunch of the comic books, the pinups, the cards, tucked away safely in their nice little Gemini mailers right before I sent out the very first batch today. Yeah, so if you order today, you are going to likely be getting it very soon. So do that, and the link to that is in the description below, as is the link to Florida Man. Alrighty, let's talk a little bit about Comicsgate drama. And basically, let me just set it up here. Jeremy and I have been having a disagreement over whether or not Comicsgate drama actually hurts the sale of
to be clear, it's not just Comicsgate drama. It's whether or not bringing a lot of drama into comics hurts the sale of said comics.
Alrighty, I agree with that. And no, I don't think it does. It the sales seem to be very, very good, and especially around Ethan Van Sciver's Cyber Frog Wreck Planet. He is one of the main focuses of all the drama, and so I think I really don't think there's anything more to say. I mean, I'm right, you're wrong. So debate over.
How many copies of Wreck Planet were sold as of this morning?
How many copies?
Yes. How many backers are there?
Around 7,700.
Okay. And the previous book, how many backers were there?
Oh, around 8,800, I think.
No, it's so 8,566 of the previous book. The subsequent, now there's a very big caveat we're going to get to in a second here. The second book so far has sold 7,731. That's a delta of 835 backers, fewer for the second campaign. Now, here is the kicker. There were 4 subsequent campaigns for number 1, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of additional supporters. So there is a delta of thousands of backers fewer for the second book than the first book.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it's made more money is a concept called price discrimination. Now,
right.
Doc, do you want to tell us what price discrimination means?
Why don't you tell us?
Well, you were telling me you know all kinds of stuff about economics, so I thought you might want to enlighten us here.
Price discrimination is just basically upping the price on certain things, and that's about it.
Price discrimination is allowing people to pay different prices for variations of the same thing. Yeah. So you can spend, let's say, as long as you hit the market clearing rate of whatever that amount is, you spend X amount for PDF, more for a physical copy, more for a couple of physical copies. If it's signed, it's more than that. Apparently, Doc doesn't know how to drink.
Go ahead. Go
He's
ahead.
choking on prices. This is just something. So the reason that the second issue of Cyberfrog has done very well is it got much better at price discrimination, not because it got more backers. It got substantially fewer backers.
I don't think 800 out of. I mean, first of all,
losing your campaign, so you're dealing with thousands fewer backers.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, those
are the facts. Those are the numbers.
No. Wait a minute. Those subsequent campaigns for Blood Honey were different variations on the same book. I mean, many of those were no doubt repeat customers from the very first Blood Honey campaign.
But I mean, when we say backer, one of the problems we have here with Indiegogo versus Kickstarter is Kickstarter will not let you cheat there. Indiegogo will. And so on Kickstarter, you can change what you're backing. You can change what you're backing, but it still counts you as one person versus you can, when you support something multiple times on Indiegogo, it counts you as a backer again. So we can't get an accurate count of exactly how many people this is. We just have to go with the number of backers.
I understand that, but you're also going to lose, from issue 1 to 2, you are potentially going to lose some customers.
Sure,
there are going to be those.
Except that I've looked into this. I've asked lots and lots of people who do regular crowdfunding. There is a second issue effect that you see in the comic book shop where there's a significant drop off from issue 1 to issue 2. It's far from clear that's a significant thing with crowdfunding campaigns. It's not at all uncommon for second issues to sell better than a first issue in crowdfunding. It's mixed. It has to do with fulfillment, things like that. Those things absolutely matter. But it is not at all uncommon to do better with a second issue of a crowdfunder than the first in terms of volume. All right. In this case, the volume is lower. And if you count the 4 subsequent campaigns for the same stuff, significantly lower. So I'm just going to say that your data is faulty.
I don't think so, Jeremy. I mean, I think to me, this seems a little bit like goalpost shifting. I mean, the argument that you made months ago to me over the phone was that we were going to see lower sales numbers, dollar numbers.
No,
for Ethan Van Sciver.
It was fewer people. The thing
it was going to be lower numbers, as I recall, and now it's not lower numbers. He's actually upped the price.
Look, the problem is we don't have we can't go to the tape here because we were talking.
And the other possibility is just simply by upping the price. I mean, you lost some backers, but simply by doing that,
it isn't so much that he upped the prices that he allowed all kinds of weird variations and for people to throw in at different levels than they were able to before, gave them a lot more options. Price discrimination.
All right, but
what I'm saying is,
I don't think my data is faulty here.
That if you're going to say that, you have to at least show them to be roughly the same, and they're not.
All right,
there's a significant drop off between number 1 and number 2.
Okay. All right. But here is some more data. All right. Did a bunch of creators here, not just Ethan Van Sciver, but Adam Post, Clint Stoker, Vinny Tardamella, John and Carla. They are all raising more money in their second campaigns so far, with the exception being the Diaz brothers, but they are only 18 days into their second campaign, and they've almost raised as much as they did the second time round. And
when did you pull these numbers?
Today.
Okay. The reason I'm saying that is that I thought I saw that Lost Pages had Pip Magic Cop.
Not yet. It's very close.
The reason I'm asking is I didn't write that down. So, but they're same ballpark, right?
They're going to exceed.
Sure, it. No, I'm not. That's not a question. I don't doubt that they're going to exceed it. I'm not at all arguing against that point. But you're in the same ballpark money wise right now, right?
Right now.
Okay. Yeah. You have about 50 fewer backers so far of Lost Pages. Now, I'm not saying you won't get more backers of Lost Pages. I absolutely believe that you will. Okay, that's not the point I'm making. But the reason that they're doing about as well with 50 fewer backers is because of price discrimination. Downcast 1 and Downcast 2, the last I looked at it, Downcast 2 had fewer backers than Downcast 1. Again, price discrimination. Now, in that case, there is a very good reason why 2 may not have sold as much as 1 that actually cuts against my point. And that's that he announced about midway through that campaign that at some point Alterna would be picking up his comic, so people would be able to get it cheaper later. I'm not seeing how some of this makes your point. Like Vinny Tartamella.
Oh, I think it makes my point very well. I mean, first of all,
these aren't all outrage merchants.
Yeah, but they are. I mean, Vinny Tartamella, Adam Post. Hang on, let me finish. They have all been on Ethan Van Sciver's show a fair amount, so they are certainly very much related to that show. And certainly Adam has been on there a few times when they have been discussing various levels of drama. Second, I'm going to say it does seem like goalpost shifting to me. I mean, all the focus was on the amount that they were going to sell. Well, now all of a sudden those numbers don't bear out that argument. So now you're going to number of backers. No, the sales numbers don't show it. So the actual money amounts, the dollar amounts don't show it. So now we'll shift over to backers, okay? Because and even though there could be loads of reasons why backers have left, other than drama, that's now the number. We've gone, the argument about dollar numbers have been totally refuted, and so now we'll shift over to drama. And the second thing here is that
there's no tape for us to look back at. So you're characterizing something that I said that I don't think I said the way you're saying I said it. And I don't know, this whole goalpost shifting, I think it's happening in your mind.
No, I don't think it is happening in my mind. I mean, I don't know that I have not seen people make the argument that, the proof of the pudding is in the loss in the number of backers. That's just something that's coming up now.
My whole argument had to do with number of backers. The whole thing was number of backers.
No, that has only come up after Ethan Van Sciver beat his Wreck Planet.
Absolutely 100% about the number of backers.
No, I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
Well, we don't have a tape to go look back and check, so
I mean, and the other thing is, the whole argument has also been that the drama will damage sales. Well, clearly it hasn't damaged sales.
The number of backers down.
Not if you're making more money. It hasn't damaged sales.
You've been able to squeeze, Doc.
The price discrimination may be part of what has cost you some customers. If
I sell 900,999 things at $1 a unit, or if I then sell the next thing to one guy for $1 million, have sales gone up?
In dollar amounts, yes.
Sure, yeah, but there's a massive drop off in support.
Okay, but if you sell those same units at $1, and then next time you increase it to $2, all right, you may end up with 1.5 million. Now you've lost a number of backers simply because you've upped the price, but you've done better.
Okay.
All right. And that has nothing to do with drama or anything like that. It has to simply do with the fact that hang on, I'm simply saying
it has to do with price discrimination.
It has to do with it has to do with supply and demand. You just up the price of an object, and the demand is going to fall in response to the increase in the price. But that doesn't mean you're doing worse. It just means that
sure,
you're actually able to sell. You're actually able to make higher sales, producing fewer units.
Sure, yeah, and that's true for the first, whatever. But as you go on and on, as you continue to sell and sell, you don't necessarily want to continue to downward trend. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know.
Well, No, it's not going to be a downward trend.
Well, you know, look, you're seeing two items in a series. One has far fewer units than the previous one. Okay, so now if that continues down, then it's a downward trend.
Well, again, I don't agree. I think it's more important to look at actual sales dollars. I don't think.
I think that the customers matter, and I think that you know, especially like if you look at
just because I say that, you know, I think it's important to look at dollars doesn't mean I'm saying that customers don't matter.
Okay, all right. The number of customers matter. All right. I'm not accusing you of being heartless, Doc.
Oh, you could accuse me of being heartless. I don't mind.
No, I actually know you.
And here's another good point. The only reason there are less backers is the economy, not drama.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that ends it. I think it's game, set, match, Doc Hogg. Thank you very much.
I love this. He sets this
game,
up.
set, match, Doc Hogg.
It's like a thing that's just going to be there, even though I just destroyed you.
No! Oh, yeah. You destroyed me in
with
an
my
alternate
logic
universe.
And science.
I mean, thank God we're talking about comics where there are alternate universes where perhaps you might have destroyed me. Where you might have destroyed me. An alternate in universe 657. 0.2.
No.
It's not a full universe.
It's
657.2. 6616. 0.2. Not even a full universe. A 0.2 of a universe is where you may have destroyed me. All right. A 0.2 of a universe. You may have destroyed me. You may have destroyed me. Well, fuck it. This was fun. This was fun.
Oh, dude,
Jeremy, just so the folks at home know, Jeremy, I love you, bud.
I love you too, man.
So nothing personal. This was enjoyable. We're not going to settle the issue. Let's quickly move on to the comics. Yeah, we got two pretty good comics today. Yeah, well, I agree, Pop, but Jeremy does not agree, and Jeremy is a very thoughtful, considerate, smart guy, and, you know, the only reason I'm even having this debate is because he's made such a good case, even though it's wrong, making such a very good case for why drama is hurting. So, all righty, let's get on to the comics here, because I know you have to go, and we want to get... we do want to get Mike Barron on, and let's see. I
assume you have Road Trip queued up?
Well, it's about to be queued up.
Okay.
And let's queue up the other one.
This is not a I just don't understand why it's called Rockabilly Road Trip, right? I mean, is there a road trip, or is that to come later?
Well, I have to admit that the title confused me some too. I was like, yeah, is there a road trip? And I guess I can kind of see why it's called Rockabilly. But that said, oh man, where is the other one? What was goodness.
Bug Slugger is the other one.
Yes. Sorry, thank you. All righty. Let's do Rockabilly.
So these are the thing these have in common is they're both kind of like, they're funny and they're a little bit grotesque and they're genre comics. And the genre of Rockabilly Road Trip is it's a mix, but it's like zombies meets PMS. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's good. Here's what I liked. Yeah, it's basically they're in some what was this? This was a craft shop, I believe, right? Macrame, and they're all stuck in here, and they've got all these, you know, they've kind of barricaded the place, and there's all these women outside that are trying to get in and kill them, and it's like zombies, but it actually turns out that it's some sort of disease that men have, some sort of scent or something they give off that drives women insane and want to kill them, which is kind of a funny way of you know, actual, you know, a little bit of social commentary and parody at the same time mixed together, which I thought was clever. The other thing that I'm telling you, she's not one of them. And I'm like, what? And then it took me a little while to figure out what that meant. He's referring to this, the woman in the green here, the alien.
His chick is not a human woman or changed enough that she's not affected by this whole
Yeah,
thing.
she's not affected. But then, it took me a little while to figure out what they were referring to. And I admit, for some reason, I have this kind of gut reaction to stories that kind of start in the middle, where you have to wrap back around to figure out, what was actually meant when the story started. That said, Preston does a pretty good job of wrapping back around so that you know what it is. And it's, I like the art here. This is a good splash page. I will execute every last mother, one of yous, which is taken from gosh darn it, Amanda, Quentin Tarantino, the first big hit he had, Pulp Fiction.
Okay, I was gonna say.
So no, just overall, it's really good. It's a lot of fun. It does kind of end weird. I mean, they decide to, instead of kill them all, they end up just
form a knitting circle.
Yeah, they form a knitting circle and they put together this big net, and so that's really the plan. We're just going to wait it out, Well, when you, as you no doubt have had happen in your marriage, Jeremy, and I certainly had in my former marriage, the woman gets mad. What do? You wait it out. You don't.
It depends on what it is, but yeah, sometimes you just go away.
You just go away. And it works and don't get me wrong. That's not just, it works both ways,
Yeah, sure.
and these things usually blow over in about 7 days in my experience. Yeah, if you're lucky. But it's just again, another nice splash page. I really like the hot rod here.
The art is it's fun. It's fun art.
Uh-huh.
I think it goes well with a funny story.
Yeah, I think he did really well here, and I'm sure there's if I really wanted to, maybe some of the flashback was a little at times maybe a little hard to follow about exactly what was going on, and it does. This is
but
volume.
Even in the flashback, where yes, I agree, parts of it are hard to follow. It's still kind of cool to look at,
Yes.
Where you see him going down that trail. That's a cool setup, even if you're like, what?
And this is volume 2, so I assume that we might actually be jumping in at the start. You're kind of jumping in the middle of the story here.
Oh, okay. So this isn't volume 1.
I'm guessing. I would like to actually see what volume 1 was, so that what brings us to this point.
Okay, well, so that makes more sense because it says number 1. So I was like, what's going on? But okay, it's volume 2.
Yeah,
I get it. Now there was just more story in here that I didn't know existed.
Yeah, but even if you just, this was the very number one. This is not a terrible way to start a story.
Sure,
you're just starting it in the middle. You're establishing that there's something going wrong right here off the first page. Okay, I know we're running out of time here for you.
We can just review Bug Slugger next week, or we can.
Why don't we do it real quick, and let me just give me just a second here to send the link to Mike. It'll be just a second here.
So Bug Slugger, the genre is like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, kind of a thing. And so if that you have that in your head,
is Bug Slugger up there now?
It's there. It is now. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So and he's a guy who fights these army of crickets that I guess people, for whatever, something happens and turns them into these cricket creatures, and he slugs them because they're bugs and he kills them.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's and because of that, it can take shortcuts and get away with them that you couldn't get away with in other things. and also just some of the things that happens. So he transforms into his thing by putting a slap bracelet on, you know.
And it's slapazonga. Slap it on you, slapazonga.
Yeah,
I like that.
This is fun. And then after he dispatches these crooked creatures, I don't know how much you queued up, but there's
this is the whole thing.
Okay, all right. There's the with the coffee guy, barista, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he kills these guys, and then the barista comes up and says, "Here's your drinks," and he goes, "Rah!"
Hipster hack.
Hipster hack. And they go, he wasn't a cricket, and he goes, "I just hate hipsters." That was the part where this really started to work for me, where I'm like, okay, this is really dark humor. I get it.
I should go. Just stay away from crickets. Also, look both ways when crossing the street, and don't read internet comments. Yeah.
Definitely don't do that.
Now, the problem I had with this book, and even though I know it's supposed to be humor, is that he hasn't got movement down yet. Like this panel right here. Okay, he's chasing him on this little scooter, and this thing is flying off, and it just, even though it's supposed to be funny, you still want the movement to be dramatic.
To me, it's the way that this is angled, where it's just a straight line like this, where you should have shifted it in such a way that, like, can you imagine if he was coming up behind him, and you see the cricket guy flying at you and him on the road behind it coming, something like that would have showed movement better.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have. Yeah, this needs to be. I actually think this thing needs to be more horizontal, and he actually needs to be crouching forward a little bit.
Yep.
Both feet maybe pointed forward. One. Because this does not imply. This implies he's out for a leisurely ride.
Sure.
It does not imply that he's chasing after someone.
Yeah.
Something.
No, I understand. I just think the angle is wrong. Like, it's just the long angle on that one is.
I mean, going back to Rockabilly Roadtrip, I mean, here he's got a guy pinned to the ground, and you still got lots of movement going on. He's grabbing him. He's reaching for his hat.
These two guys running at the guy that's got him pinned.
Yeah, and it's just even here where they're all standing and facing off, he's spread out. It looks like they've just come to, it's still the scene still moves, and even where, everyone's just more or less standing still and facing off, it still looks like if they're standing still, they've just come to a standstill,
or more like it's just a snapshot, not that they're not in movement.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree that they show movement better in that comic than in this one.
And I'll say this: neither of those comics are not the main kind of art I love. I like the Rockabilly Roadtrip, though. I like the art, and who was it? It was Perch the other day had a video where he was saying that one of the things that drove him nuts about comics is that all the art starts to look alike in a lot of the mainstream comics, not always, but a lot of it does. And that he would rather have 100 different art styles and 50% that he didn't like, even if there's 50% that he didn't like. Now, I don't know if I quite go 50%, but that's a matter of degree and not a matter of kind. For the most part, I'm absolutely with him on this, and I like seeing different art. I like Rockabilly Roadtrip. I think I would like the one in Bug Slugger better if the movement in a lot of these panels was done better, even though that neither of these types are my kind of art. One of the things I do love about being into Indy Comics is you see, just such a wide variety of art, and some of it you're going to you're going to end up liking. And one of the first comics that I Zane Comics, the Blast. I've always wondered what the elemental balance. That artwork very much grew on me, and I ended up liking it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, there's some again. I mean, just the movement here that he's about to crash into something. Just it looks like almost like he's just popping a lazy wheelie. So, there's just, but that said, I mean, there is good humor here, and there's a pretty simple story. A guy can, becomes a what is this, like a chameleon, iguana, lizard type,
something like that,
armor, and is fighting these evil giant crickets.
Okay, and he runs into a narwhal.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Pretty good plot, and there's a lot of potential here. I mean, that's the only real problem I have is with the movement. So
yep, I agree. Well, I think on that note, I'm gonna take off and let you talk to Mike Barron about his great comic book, Florida Man.
Yes.
I envy you for being able to be in on this. And I think next week I'll be back on interviews. I don't know. I'll let you know. I think that's the case.
Okay. Well, hey, you got a daughter to take care of, so
yeah.
Let's
see you, Doc.
All righty. How do I take a banner down? It should be all right. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Pretty good, Doc.
All righty. So why don't we just talk a little bit about Florida Man for a second? I've got some yeah. Got a few things I can bring up here.
Dead air, Doc.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. All right, here we go. All righty. Tell us a little bit about this art here and its relation to Florida Man.
That's Habib Rodriguez, attorney at law.
Mm-hmm.
He's an ambulance chaser. Habib's one of those guys. I got the idea. There's a guy here in Colorado called Frank Azar, the strong arm, and he advertises constantly on the secondary and tertiary channels, the ones that show Judge Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And this says, if you were in an accident and the insurance company didn't give you what you deserved, call me, Franklin Azar, the strong arm, and I will get you what you deserve. Well, I like it. I mean, but Habib is a secondary character in Florida Man. He's Gary's lawyer. Gary Dubé is Florida Man, and Gary needs a lot of lawyering because Gary is constantly in trouble with the law. It's not because Gary's a criminal at heart. It's because Gary's a bit of a hothead and a little out of step with modern society. And he's been in and out of prison before, in and out of jail before we meet him in the story. But the first time he goes to jail in the story is when he gets into a road rage incident with a judge. They're driving down the highway shooting at each other. And later the judge shows up and IDs him and has him arrested. So he calls Habib to get him out. And then they become friends. And Habib, he doesn't have the money to pay Habib. So Habib says, well, do me a favor. I need a picture of this man in flagrant delicto because his wife is suing him for divorce and she wants to prove that he's been unfaithful. So Gary snaps a picture of them at a no-tell motel, but unfortunately, the 7-foot-tall Jamaican transvestite inside, who is the client's date, sees Gary when a car turns into the parking lot and casts a shadow in the room, and he comes outside, and they start fighting, and that's how Gary meets Patrice, who becomes a good friend of his. In fact, Patrice loans him the $20 to get gas in his truck so he can get home. And it's the same money he uses to buy a Florida Powerball ticket, which later lands, and Gary wins the lottery. And that all happens in the first 24 pages. Gary wins $7 million. And in the second 24 pages, he blows through the $7 million in record time and gets kicked out of his mansion. And at the end of the story, he ends back in his trailer by the swamp. And And so it's kind of but Gary's always looking for an angle. He's always looking to make money, and he tries a lot of different schemes. Some of which
so if I call this guy Habib Rodriguez, he'll get me off one way or another.
he'll sure try.
That is such a great tagline. I'll get you off one way or another. By the way, is this an actual phone number? Have you called that phone number just to see what happened?
You know, Todd put that in, and I think it's the number for Disneyland.
I'm gonna. Once I get. Oh, what the hell? Let's try it right now. Shall we do that?
Sure.
Let's see what happens. Alrighty, I'll put this on. I'll put it on speaker and put it up close to my microphone.
All right, let's see.
Let's see what happens. Alrighty. Alrighty. Let's do this. 1407 939 7277. All right. Okay, putting on speaker.
Thank you for calling Walt Disney World Resort.
Ah.
We are happy to assist with modifying reservations that were originally arriving on or after today and checking out on or before July 11th of 2020. If you have an existing reservation for those dates.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess you're right.
I think they raised the per person price to $750 per person per day.
Yeah, well, it's probably some of that price discrimination that Jeremy was talking about. All righty. Let's see. Tell us. Why don't you tell us? Because we've discussed Florida Man here.
Conceptually.
Well, we've talked about Florida Man here quite a few times. And tell us what got you into writing and writing things like comic books and novels. You've got a whole biker series of novels, among other things. Your work is quite extensive. What really got you into this way back in the day?
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. Since the first time I picked up a John D. McDonald paperback, I think it was 35 cents at a cigar store in Mitchell, South Dakota. It was The Deep Blue Goodbye, and I was hooked. That was one of his Travis McGee series, and I always wanted to follow in John D's footsteps and create my own character that was like John D. McDonald, was like Travis McGee, and our readers know the type of character I'm talking about. Jack Reacher, Philip Marlowe, a tarnished knight down these mean streets.
Bob Lee Swagger.
Exactly. I'm a huge Bob Lee Swagger fan, by the way.
I've read the three. Yeah, those are good novels. Stephen Hunter, I think, is the.
Yeah, his last one, Game of Snipers, is one of his best.
I'll have to check that one out.
But so there are now 7 books in the biker series featuring Josh Pratt, who's a reformed motorcycle hoodlum who went to prison and found God and came out determined to turn his life around. He's one of those guys with one foot in civility and one foot in outlaw, to whom people turn as the absolute last hope when all other avenues have been exhausted and they can't get justice. They go to Josh, and he won't take on any job that seems unfair or unjust to him. He's got a pretty good moral head on his shoulders, but he's a biker, and he's very humble. He's terse. He doesn't say a lot, and one thing he's not a wise guy. He doesn't crack wise all the time. He says very little, and he tries to make it count. But the stories are gripping, and although some of them deal with the dénouement of cycle gangs, most of them do not. And in those cases, Josh is a bit of a fish out of water.
Now, do you remember what was the first time that you got a publisher to actually accept one of your novels?
Oh, years ago, I did a Witchblade novel for Silvestri and Top Cow. It was published through an outfit that no longer exists. And then I did a Green Lantern novel with Christopher Priest, and those were my 2 first published novels. But it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I finally figured the novel form out. I set out to write novels, and I got sidetracked into comics, and I love comics, and I will continue to do them. But I originally wanted to be a novelist. It just took me a long time to learn how to write because I'm a slow learner. But when I get it, I get it, and now I understand it. and I'm writing novels like a machine. I figured out that you have to write 3 to 4 novels a year and have them sell to make a living at it. You can't just write one novel and expect it to go nova. I mean, it happens, like The Martian or To Kill a Mockingbird.
Sure.
But those instances are very rare.
Written by Michael Crichton, you know.
Yeah, well, Michael Crichton was one of those guys who was not only an excellent novelist, but he worked at it like a bricklayer. That's something I learned from my publisher, Kevin J. Anderson, was that you got to, as soon as you stop working on one novel, you got to start the next. And my goal in anything I write is to grab the reader by the throat and drag him into the narrative to the exclusion of all else. Because the essential question in all fiction is what happens next, and the reader has to care. And how do you make him care? Well, there are 1,000 ways to make him care. Plot, character, pacing, narrative voice, milieu, an idea, and a good novelist uses them all.
Alrighty. Tell us about some of the first comic books that you actually worked on.
Well, the first comic was Nexus, which I created with my partner Steve Rude in 1981. Capital Comics published that, and we're still being published today. Dark Horse is our publisher now, and there will be a new collection out next year. It would have been out this year, except for a variety of factors, including the coronavirus. But while we were waiting, we had an idea. Dude asked me, what's your idea of the Ultimate Nexus story? And I thought Nexus versus Galactus, but we can't use Galactus. So I wrote a script, and we created our own planet-eating monster called Gormondo. And Dude took that and reworked it. He rewrote a lot of my lines. And I wanted to present the story as I had originally envisioned it. So I wrote it as a novel. And we just concluded the Kickstarter for the Nexus novel. And I'm very pleased with the results. The Nexus novel will grab you by the throat. And I did things in there that you can't do in a comic book, such as serious in-depth examination of personality and character, and world building, science fiction world building, and explaining how you can use black holes to travel through interstellar space. And I'm encouraged. I'm going to write another Nexus novel as soon as I clear my plate from the present projects.
Let's go back for just a second to Florida Man here. What are you going to get aside from a graphic novel? Obviously, having pictures, art, as opposed to a regular novel. Other than that, though, what are you going to get in the graphic novel that you aren't going to get in the regular novel?
Well, it's a different story. When I conceived Florida Man, it was a comic, and I wrote 5 scripts. And I got Todd Mulrooney to join me. Todd is the artist. He did that cover. And Todd is a fantastic artist. But when I had the 5 scripts, I realized that I had the outline, very detailed outline for a novel. So I wrote the novel. And of course, when you write a novel, it changes. You can write a detailed outline, but inevitably, the novel is going to surprise you. The characters are going to surprise you. And I always say that if a writer doesn't surprise himself, he won't be able to surprise the reader. And it surprised me plenty. And I was very happy with the novel. And I turned it into my publisher, which is Wolfpack. And it was in print a month later. And it's by far my most popular novel.
Yeah. And so I just brought it up here. You are obviously, it looks like you're not even 2 weeks into your campaign, and you're a third of the way to your goal, which is really good to be that far along in the first 2 weeks. And why don't we, shall we take a listen to the video here?
Sure.
All righty. Let's turn up the volume a little bit here. And yeah, all righty. Let's bring it up. And yeah.
Shut up, Freddie.
Hey, man. Hey, man. Y'all got beer still?
You've seen the stories. Now, writer Mike Barron and artist Todd Mulrooney are bringing the quintessential Florida man, Gary Duba, to life. Gary's just a regular guy living in a trailer with his girlfriend Crystal, but he's got dreams, big dreams. He just invented house suspenders that will secure any home to the ground in rough weather. And now he's going to show them off on Piranha Pool, the TV show where venture capitalists and entrepreneurs pony up if they like your pitch. But when his gal Crystal gains notoriety as an infamous amateur wrestler, she quickly advances to the pro circuit where her greatest challenge is an angry Australian grappler. Follow Gary and Crystal on their extraordinary journey from rags to riches. To rags, to riches, to rags, to riches. All while dealing with shady lawyers, toilet snakes, wild gators, cheating hearts, feral hogs, and problem shoppers. Back Florida Man today and reserve your very own copy of the Florida Man graphic novel. We're bringing back funny books, y'all.
That is really one of the best. That is one of the best little promos I've seen so far for an indie comic. That was really well done. I like it.
Chris Brawley put that together.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So yeah, the story is very different from the novel. I mean, the novel is him winning the lottery, and this one, she gets into the pro. Although you do have the house suspenders in the novel. But
did you read the novel?
I am halfway through it. I was reading it at Christmas. I've said that before. And just with everything going with the comic book, I have not had a chance to get back to it. I'm hoping to be able to take a break for like 2 days, sometime in July or August. Go down to a little bed and breakfast and just enjoy myself. So, but we'll see. At any rate, okay. Just tell us a little bit more about Florida Man.
Well, I don't choose my stories. My stories choose me. And the reason I did Florida Man is because he was inescapable. Every time I went online, whether it was on Facebook or regular news stories, you were confronted with these stories that always began Florida Man. Florida Man claims syringe in anus is not his. Florida Man arrested for defecating on traffic from light pole. Florida Man arrested for climbing. This is my wife, Ann.
Hi.
Who runs my Kickstarters, and this is our dog, Freddie.
Hi, Freddie.
Okay,
That was just a cameo. The bosses made a cameo. So I decided, well, I got to write a novel about this guy. It's just too rich. The possibilities are too many. And that's when I started scripting the comic. And scripting a comic is a good way to write an outline. Because you think differently when you're scripting a comic. You think visually, you think panel by panel, and you're always thinking what happens next, which is the essential question in all fiction. Now, I couldn't possibly incorporate all the Florida Man stories into my novel. I incorporated a few, but it was mostly inspiration, and then I created my own that was based on Gary's character. Because a good writer creates a character, and then the character takes on a personality of his own. And then that character will dictate where the story goes, because you think, well, what would Gary do in this situation? And Gary will tell you, and that's where the story goes.
All right. Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about Florida Man?
Well, the first graphic novel, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And it's not crammed. It's not crowded. It reads like a breeze. You will go from panel to panel like you're sliding down a hill. But it barely scratches the surface. And if it's a success, we're going to, of course, go on to Florida Man 2. My publisher asked me for a sequel to Florida Man, and it's out now. It's called Hogzilla. And it's about Gary's Captain Ahab-like quest to bring down...
So there is already a Florida Man 2. I didn't know this.
It's out.
I have obviously not been to your Facebook page in a little while. So
well, I should plug that more. It's got the same cover, so it's a little confusing. I mean, it's a brand new story, and it's about 1,000-pound feral hog that keeps bedeviling Gary's housing association. You see, at the start of Hogzilla, Gary emerges triumphant at the end of Florida Man, which you will see, by capturing plastic surgeon of the stars and serial killer Dr. Vanderlei Mukherjee. And because of that, he gets the key to the city, the housing association wants him back because of the prestige. So he moves back into his mansion, in which was previously Turpentine Acres, but now it's something like Chesterfield Gardens, and he's surrounded by his upscale neighbors, and they don't take kindly to his loud parties, his Confederate flag, or his lawn jockeys. So there's a little friction there. But there's a lot of different stuff in Hogzilla. I kind of invented a lot of it. I mean, it's never appeared in any Florida Man story. But there will be gators. There is Hogzilla, of course, and there are wild hippos. Where did the wild hippos come from? Well, there's a drug dealer in Florida Man #1 called El Naris, and he had an estate in the Everglades and a private zoo, like so many drug dealers do. And when he mysteriously disappeared, the estate was abandoned, the hippos got loose, and they started breeding. So now, in addition to Burmese pythons and nutria and 1,000 other invasive species, Florida has to deal with wild hippos.
Wow.
They show up on the golf course.
I've seen some of these feral hogs that they've caught in the South, and some of them are massive. I mean, this is 1,000-pound feral hog.
Yeah, that's no joke.
It's no joke, and it's not made up either.
No,
I mean, they're definitely And the thing is, my dad has a friend. They live out in the Napa Valley area, and actually feral hogs are a big problem for the vineyards out there. And the vineyards actually hire out my dad's friend to basically track down the hogs and shoot them. And apparently it only takes, when a hog actually gets loose, a domesticated, so to speak, hog actually gets loose, it only takes basically one generation for them to revert back to feral. And I mean, they do a lot of damage to the vineyards out there, and I'm certain to plenty of farms. Somewhere around here, I don't know where it is, but he actually took out a jaw of the feral hog and mounted it on a piece of wood for me. I've got it. I don't know where it's at. It's in a box around here. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be moving soon, so there's a lot of boxes I'll be going through, and hopefully I can find it. So I will.
There's a show about the hogs. I think it's on the Discovery Channel. I think it's called Hog Wild, and it's about Texas, and it's just a group of people that go out day after day to try and bag wild hogs.
Yeah, and they can be dangerous too.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to get yourself boxed in with a hog that's mad at you. I mean,
no,
those tusks are no joke. So. Okay, well, I mean, it looks like you're off to a really good start here on the graphic novel, and I've backed it. And if people in the audience have not backed it yet, believe me, you want to. Mike has so much experience with writing graphic novels and comics, and Florida Man was a great read, and I'm really sorry that I have not had a chance to get back to it, but it's so much fun. And he just, he has this very simple style that he writes in that's very, just very readable. You can fly through some of the chapters. It's, it's readable. It's fun. So I would definitely encourage you to pick it up as soon as you can. All righty, Mike, last question. Who won the debate, me or Jeremy?
Jeremy.
You suck. Wrong. Survey says wrong. All righty. Mike, thanks so much for being on with us, and we will no doubt have you back very soon.
Thanks, Doc.
All righty. Take care. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We will be back next week.